Hi everyone,
Hello,
I'm Valerie
this is Sheila.
and we are 2 Days Litches and welcome to our program Sandwich.
Yay. Anyways, we were doing our show and of course we were talking about generations
in parenting. So before we start generations in parenting, let's talk about last week.
Two things.
Two
Advent
things.
calendar, number one. We get to keep them.
We get to keep
So
our
the one I
Advent
made with the
calendars.
alcohol in it is going to her.
And the one I made with her special treats are going
to me.
Going to her. And so, yeah, let's just say it was crazy.
It was.
Yeah, we had quite a few.
Hello.
Let's just say we went to a lot of trouble to make our very special Advent calendars that we wanted to give away.
Yes.
But I even checked again today with hope upon hope that somebody submitted an Advent calendar. And Kathy Bilson, just letting you know.
We didn't know if that was yours or not.
Yes, and unfortunately, my dear, if I could say your last name right now, I would.
Cardosa?
Thank you.
Cardosa?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyways, she posted this awesome picture of a beautiful Advent calendar.
If you want to send it to us, go ahead, and we will. We'll put it up. We'll put the picture on our.
It was a wooden hand carved
it's
tree, and it had wine or like what looked like wine bottles in every day for doing the.
That is just special.
Yeah. So anyway, let's just say, but she didn't make it. So unfortunately, nobody submitted anything. I'm thinking construction paper and a handwritten Advent calendar would have done the trick. Anyway, so unfortunately, nobody's doing getting our Advent calendars.
No, but we are. And I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so secondly, the challenge, my sister challenged me to make her a
something
shirt
to wear out of
yay masks.
Mask.
You know, the things we have to wear nowadays. Mm-hmm. Guess what? That didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. And let's just explain why. Okay, so getting masks is really difficult right now because it's mandatory, especially here in Alberta. Just saying.
Yeah. And
on top of that, we thought it might be making too much light of a serious situation. So better judgment prevailed, and
it did.
Not because I wasn't willing to try. I was willing to try.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, and because I found out that I wasn't wearing my mask properly as well. Right. I went out and bought myself a whole bunch of masks so that I just wear them once and then discard. Correct. Because I had one, and I see it in vehicles, people. I had one kind of hanging from my mirror that I just put on when I go in. Apparently that is not the right way to wear.
But it is becoming new car jewelry. Did you notice that? You know how before you had the what are they called, the pine,
right,
and the this and the that, and people hung everything from their cars. Well, no longer do they do that. Hi,
they
Coral.
don't.
And you're right. No. So now they hang masks.
Okay.
The other day, I was at Safeway, and there was a place that actually had a vehicle that actually, from what I could tell, had at least 10 masks on the little thing, on the rear view mirror.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, wow, it seems to be the new car jewelry, but now it's like really elaborate. They did a good job with these masks, the way they had them laying there. It almost looked like a tree of masks.
Okay.
So anyways, we're not going to use masks.
No. Okay. So that challenge is out. It's gone. And now let's get into our topic. This came about, and it started with being judgy. Because as us older people here tend to be a little judgy sometimes.
A lot of times.
A lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And I can speak for myself because I've done it myself. And being judgy about, you know, young people, parenting, what's the world coming to, blah, blah, blah.
Blah.
Yeah. However, upon investigation, I found out an amazing array of things.
Right.
One of them being that prior to the baby boomer generation, being my parents' generation, the only generations that existed were called traditionalists.
Yes.
So they only started naming generations with the baby boomers.
Yeah. Interestingly enough.
Interestingly enough. So our parents were raised by traditionalists. Yeah. We were raised by the baby boomers, and then so on and so on and so on.
Hi, Francine.
So we tend to be a little judgy when it comes to topics, especially parenting. And then I got into, okay, well, we're not comparing apples to apples, and that's the unfortunate part of all of this parenting issues. And I'm sure our parents probably said the same thing. What are our kids doing today? Right? Well, we're responsible for what's happening today. But anyways, moving forward, that in 75 years, and it's actually in 1945 when the first generation baby boomers actually came to exist. In 75 years, the world that existed then does not exist anymore. And the world that existed for us in 50 years does not exist anymore. So how can we be so judgy in parenting? You know, it's one of those things. And then we're introduced with this whole internet.
Yes.
Right? Of which I love the internet. We would not be doing what we're doing without it. And yin yang, positive, negative. There's always a positive, but you're always going to find a negative. And then as we started talking about parenting, and I've done it myself, I remember talking to you, or we were talking on the phone and saying, you know, I don't get it. I don't get what's happening with kids today. Like when we were taught, when you have children, right? Once that child's born, your first child, your whole life changes. Right. You need to conform now to your child's
That's what
reality.
We were taught.
That's what we were taught. But that's how our parents were taught. Right. Right. So you had bedtimes and scheduled times you eat, and everything was scheduled. Everything. That's just the way it was. Right. Yes. And then I'm like, I'm calling her freaking out, thinking, oh my God, how can a child be up till midnight or whatever? That's crazy. Yeah. And then you're like, well, yeah, my kids do that too sometimes. And I'm like,
I said, Valerie, it's different nowadays.
It's different.
Kids are conforming. Children, or the children of our children, are conforming more to the parents' lifestyle
instead of the other way around. Right. Which I totally get, because bravo to our parents. Right. They're the first generation where it became socially acceptable for women to work outside of the home. Right. Right. So, you know, that's a lot of pressure. Yep. Just saying. It's a lot of pressure, because not only were women supposed to work outside the home, women were also supposed to look after the home. Yes. And the kids. Yeah. And the daycare.
But now a lot of that's reversing.
And that's the whole point. So we're being judgy because of our own expectations on ourselves.
Hey, Jody.
And on our generation. Right? Yeah. So basically, and I wanted to have that conversation, because I started realizing, once we started investigating internets and parenting and everything, it also comes down to the simple fact that a lot of families today, both parents work.
Right. It's not like the good old days, as you like to say. I don't know what was so great about them, but I just really think nowadays, though, we've changed as, every generation is going to change. They're going to continue to change.
Well, they have. Right? And it's not that
and we can't expect
happened.
Everybody to. I guess we can't expect this generation to be raising children the way we did, because we're not even in the same plane.
Exactly. So how can we pass
any judgment?
How can we pass judgment when that world that existed when we were children and when our children were children doesn't exist anymore? And that world that existed for my parents when they were children and when they had children doesn't exist anymore. And that's when I started to realize, like, hello, this goes a lot deeper than just us, the older generation, being so judgmental about the younger generation now, right?
It's different. It is different, though.
So, it's completely different, and I think, like, we just finished coming off of YouTube, so we've pretty much had this discussion already, but we wanted to bring it out because some parents now are making choices, okay, when it comes to families, right?
Yeah.
It's more socially acceptable in this whole work-life balance. However, I will argue that it really doesn't exist. But anyways, the workplace has changed.
It has.
The demands have changed. Yeah. Everything has changed from when we were working and had children and raising our children. Everything has changed. And I do understand that it's a completely different reality than what it used to be before. I mean, before we were in we had to worry about our community. Well, you know, our next door neighbors, the people around us. There was no internet.
They worried about us more. Wait a minute, because I find that the community was stronger when we were younger. Like, if I would have went down the street when I was a kid, and I would have, say, done something wrong back then.
Right.
When that parent came to my parents' door, and they would. That was the difference. The parent would come to your parents' door and say, "Oh yeah, your kid was,"
or call mom.
Yeah, or call mom or whatever. They would have said, "Hey, I'm telling you, this is what your kid did." And so you were going to be in trouble for your behavior. You had more people maybe watching out for you and your behaviors. So it was like having more of a community, you know, the old saying, community raising a child. Well, it's not necessarily wrong.
No.
It gets harder to raise a child when there's no community around you.
When you don't, yeah, exactly. For our generation, most of our like my mother, she didn't go out to really outside of the home. Mm-hmm. I mean, she might have looked after kids and done some work around, and she worked, but she didn't work outside the home. Until oh, I don't know, 10, 11. I was about
in Oshawa.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, and then it's just so much has changed. Yeah. And we get so judgy with the younger generation, and it started with millennials being entitled. Yeah. Okay, that's how this all started.
Because people kept saying, even to me, like, and I hate hearing that stuff, but she had said to me, you know, blah, 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 blah.
The entitled generation.
Entitled generation. And I'm like, no.
And then, I don't get lo and behold, I do some research, and guess what?
They aren't.
They aren't. But hey, millennials, you are the most demanding generation.
Yeah. You demand more.
You demand more. Not that that's a bad thing.
No, because you're demanding it out of yourselves, really.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that, and that was a surprise to me, right? That was a complete surprise to me. Yeah. I had no idea. And then when I started researching it more, it made total sense. Yeah. Because the thing is that world that existed 75 years ago for my parents
doesn't exist now.
And 50 years ago for us doesn't exist anymore, and here we are trying to pass judgment on how to raise parents.
How to raise children. We'll talk about that. That's a whole new show. Don't tell our parents.
I'm pretty sure they're watching. But I'm just going to blame that on me.
Let's get on that for a second, because that is generational parenting. Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. Our parents, the ones who raised us, are on here right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are things that I'm positive when I was raising my kids, they were like, are you crazy?
Exactly.
Well, one of my blogs was about my husband's mother had said to me, had said to me that these Dr. Watson or something like that boots, okay, I don't know the actual name, maybe it was
Probably
Dr.
Dr.
Walker
Spock.
or Spock. Or,
that was
so,
the
no,
thing
no,
in
no,
the
no, that was
60s.
the book, remember?
Yeah.
But no, this doctor, I had to have these shoes, these white booty-like shoes in order for my son to learn how to walk. For support.
Like we had.
Yes. And so I did what I thought was right, and I decided to go and talk to my doctor and make sure I was doing the right thing, because I had heard somewhere that you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Okay, I'm just going to read.
I said that, I think this is something we shouldn't do anymore to her. And she was angry with me, didn't speak to me for a long time, ended up going to her own doctor, asking her doctor about it. And that's when her doctor turned around and told her that she was wrong, that it is better for children to learn how to walk without shoes, because it's better for the arches of their feet and everything to form the way they're supposed to, and then introduce the shoe as they learn to walk outdoors. So that's fine. She was okay with that at that moment. And when afterwards she came to me and was like, I'm so sorry. God give her credit, because she was the kind of lady who would apologize.
Right.
So she said, hey, I was wrong. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that was just like a little inkling of the difference in the generations. Yes. And how
things, and that's why I thought, when I started investigating all of this and discovering there were no generational names prior to the baby boomers, they just called them all traditionalists.
Yep.
None. And so they only started labeling from the baby boomers on. If it wasn't for the baby boomers, they picked up the torch for change, right? And they moved forward with it. And every generation after that has done the same thing.
Yeah.
And we now don't live in a world that existed.
But now here's someone older than us.
Right.
And here's, perhaps the structured upbringing was good, as it brought order and responsibilities to the parents and the children.
Right.
Right? Not all about the parents.
Right.
And really not all about the children. Because that's one thing I used to say all the time, is the reason I give you chores in this house is because in the end you need to know your value.
Yeah.
And you are a valued member of our family, which means it's everybody pitches in to make us great as a family. And so that's what I used to try to tell my kids. I think they can attest to that. I don't know if they're on here or not, but they can say, I used to say that quite a bit.
Right.
There's a reason why I give you chores, because I value you as a member of my family, of our family. You're a valued member. You need to participate in keeping us strong as much as I need to.
Well, because it's a family unit. Right. That's the whole point, right? So moving on the family unit here, the reality of the family unit has changed as well. Right, you have a lot of
different family.
Right, a lot of single parents out there, and a lot of homes, same-sex parents.
Yeah,
a lot of homes where they're
males out working and the females off to work and the males
staying,
and then
home.
you have the more traditional homes where it's the other way, and
right,
everybody.
But I still say middle class, average, the everyday average Joe. Blow, in North America is actually, a dual income family where they have both parents working.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, and I see now the structure of that is that parents are now negotiating, partnerships, negotiating, where in our generation and my parents' generation, it was traditionally the woman's responsibility to look after the home and the children, right? Yes. However, we affect a change in that direction to where now parents, traditionally both parents take on those responsibilities equally. Right. Right.
It's more of that's what's more expected now.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that in negotiating, because any marriage, any common law relationship, whatever, is an equal partnership. And the thing is that it is not one parent's responsibility over the others unless you choose that. If you choose to be a stay-at-home parent, then yes, of course, that stay-at-home parent is going to have more responsibility, but that's a choice, right?
Yeah.
And that's choices that families make, and sometimes it's more feasible for dad to stay home
than it is the other way.
The other way around, and that's okay too. And
sometimes it's just single mom or single dad, and they're doing it their way too. Like they're negotiating their way through that as well. And so it doesn't really matter what the family or the
dynamic, it's all being negotiated.
But that's what's changed.
Those negotiations never happened before. Right? There was just expectations. And then what's happened is me as a grandparent and a parent have somewhat placed those same type of expectations on the generations going down. Yeah. And I know there was a comment or whatever you had brought up about structure and everything. Absolutely. That's what school brings. Exactly. That's what work brings. That's what happens as we get older. Our lives do become structured only because we have to, earn
That's
a living.
how you make it through society.
Right, exactly. Everything is regulated. And I mean, I guess the bottom line is as like when we were on YouTube, as I was explaining, the bottom line is the opinions. I shouldn't be so judgmental.
Yes.
And stop trying to label everything.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can't compare apples to apples here.
Nope.
You have, oranges, bananas, grapefruit, and apples, and they're all different going down the line.
Yeah. And that's one of the, like I was just trying to say, is there were different things that brought about it. Like, let's face it, there were times people would stay married forever. There was no divorce. And then, of course, divorce came about, and then marriages, and then not marriages, and then
blended families.
Together,
I mean, it could go on and on and on and on.
The generations that we're talking about since 1945 have certainly changed.
Absolutely.
So any comparison between these generations almost is impossible to make. The only thing that's standard is the standard in which we all wanted to do the best we could for our kids.
Our own morals and our own values.
Yes.
Right? And the reality is we parent that way. We are products of our environment. Our children will pick up what we lay down.
That's right.
And, the reality is that I only have one piece of advice. And one piece of advice only to give to the younger generation when it comes to parenting. Parents, please, you need to make your children responsible for their actions.
Right.
And it's not just parents. It is society in general.
Yeah.
I went on a huge thing on YouTube about how children are the most exploited human beings in this world. Mm-hmm. In the whole world.
People don't really like to hear that, but
true. But it's true. And I am all for protecting children.
Right.
And what I mean by be responsible for their own actions, children need to learn how to fall down, pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and move on. Children need to know how to problem solve.
Hey, Sharon.
Children need to know what it's like and how it feels to succeed.
And to fall down sometimes.
Right.
And if you don't fall down sometimes and scrape yourself up and you get up and you go, oh my, and you keep going, it's no different than learning how to ride a bike. At some point, there is a feeling of
how do you know? Here's the point. How do you know how to succeed unless you failed?
Yeah. I think the best thing I think we could teach people is that failure is
It's part of life. It happens all the time.
It is an option. It happens all the time. So when I hear failure is not an option, I'm like, are you kidding me? Of course it's an option. It's the only other option to success. There's only two, success or failure.
You could float. But anyway, I'm just saying. I say this because there's been a growing change from when we were children and we were going through the education system and we were participating in sports and team activities and everything.
You're right, Allie.
If you always provide a cushion and a child is never responsible for their actions, when they become a teenager, they are going to have an extreme difficulties navigating the world, because when their feelings get hurt, it's going to be the end of the world to them.
Yes.
And that's why teenage suicide rate has shot up over 39% in 20 years.
Yeah.
And the reality is that mental health is a serious issue for particularly teenagers today, right? And when talking about the internet, cannot give advice on that. Never existed when we were kids. All I have to say is we live in a world where no child shall be left behind. And these children are expecting to be treated the same way for the rest of their life.
Right.
And the reality is, when they get out there into the real world,
it can be a scary place.
People are left behind.
Yes. And
because they haven't been left behind, they don't know what success is.
Yes.
And I don't place monetary value as being successful. Like what you earn in this life. That's not what I mean by success. I mean leading.
It's like we were talking abundance.
Abundance.
Abundance. Right. Living in abundance, what does it really mean? It means living in abundance. It doesn't mean abundance of things, or...
It could be an abundance of happiness.
How about an abundance of knowledge? We do have a whack of that. Especially if you YouTube it.
Oh yeah, or Google it, because we had that conversation as well.
Google it.
And the reality is that that's my biggest fear, is that our children's children and children moving forward, if they aren't made to be responsible for their actions and understand that we have laws and legislation, we have, we have to conform. Right? We do, as adults living in Canada. I mean, we follow our laws and that, and thank God we have the freedoms we have, or we couldn't do what we're doing right now. But the reality is, my fear is that by not making children responsible for their actions and not allowing children to learn what it's like to fall down, pick themselves up, dust themselves off, problem solve, and move on.
Right.
Because then it doesn't become such a challenge for them as they enter adulthood.
Right.
And I guess that's my biggest concern. To speak to the rest of it in regards to internet and cyberbullying, I can't.
What about, like, they're dealing with things that I didn't deal with, but we're also dealing with things that I did deal with. It's like I said to you when we were talking on our show.
Right.
It's not just about the things that we haven't dealt with in the generations. Every generation has dealt with certain things in regards to parenting. Right. Everybody's trying to do the best that they know how.
Right.
They're not given a handbook. There's no special gold medal or badge you get when you do it well either, or when you're doing something wrong you don't get a big X by your name. When we talk about that, every one of us has gone through that if you're a parent.
And let's face it, as a parent, sometimes you're just winging it.
Yeah.
And I mean, because like you said, and what works for one child doesn't work for the next. No. We can tell you that much. I mean, that's a given. Yeah. The thing, even my sister and I were two completely different people. And I think our parents can attest to the fact that they probably had to parent differently between the two of us. And vice versa. Same with my children, same with your children. That's not going to change. The basic fundamentals don't change.
Nope.
But the reality has changed.
Yes.
The world has changed. And we have concerns as parents, as grandparents, right? Yeah. And I know our parents, great-grandparents, have concerns as well, and we will talk amongst each other. I'll be the first one to admit, was I judgy? Absolutely, I was judgy.
Me too.
Do I still believe children need structure? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Yes.
I'm old school, and there are
I don't think I'm broken because of the way my parents raised me. As a matter of fact, I feel very good about me, and that's because of the way I was raised.
Oh, exactly.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I just hope that my children and my children's children at this point in their lives can feel comfortable with who they are and where they are.
Right.
In their life. And I guess that's my wish for them.
They will still want that for their children too.
Absolutely. Every generation, we always want more for our kids, right? Every generation.
And like when I said in my blog, we're all kind of, in the end, we're all kind of making that one choice to try to be a good parent.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden, you become the parent and you become the center of their universe. And then one day you wake up and you realize you're no longer the center of their universe. The center of their universe is now their children.
Right. Or their boyfriend or their significant other, whatever. The thing is that and they create their own families, right? And our job as parents, the one job as human beings, the species that we are, is to produce productive members of society. That's our job.
Hi, Linda.
The reality is there's a whole bunch of complications, and we constantly talk about being sandwiched, right?
Yes.
And the sandwich is, parents above, children, grandchildren below. And I know even my parents' generation has experienced that sandwich. Squish. And I guess what I'm saying is we created that for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Because we come from a generation where women were just going out into the workforce. It was the first time in history where it was acceptable after marriage and children for women to work.
Yeah.
But we hadn't navigated away from the fact that we also had...
And women who did work prior to that were often poo-pooed because they were working.
Like working women doctors.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, come
nurses.
On. It was only 20...
My other mom, Kathy.
Yeah.
Same thing. She was a nurse. So,
But even then,
people thought
the expectation was,
yes,
that if you had a nursing career or something, you would give it up when you had children.
Yes.
Right.
Or that you were going to not only continue on with it, but you would continue to be the main and sole person looking after the household
and the children.
Looking after everything.
And going to work. And I think that's the paradigm, one of them, that has shifted significantly, where now parents are negotiating that between themselves.
Yep.
Right. So what's happening now that we see that there isn't the expectation that the woman also has to go to work, but then has to come home, cook supper, do the bedtime routine, do the homework, get the kids to bed, get lunches, and keep the house somewhat tidy.
And good that's not expected anymore.
And it's not. And it's like we said, it's not like my husband didn't pick up a broom or a vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
He did. It's just... the majority of the time, it was my responsibility.
Right.
Right.
Same
and that expectation was being put on a younger generation. What's even worse?
Yes, and marry a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
So, no, I get it. Like, it's so much has changed that how dare we sit here and judge any one of the parenting styles that are out there nowadays.
Right. I mean, we grew up in a generation like, I remember my grandparent, I remember when my grandma, children should be seen and not heard. What? Like that it's just one of those things, but that might have been what our grandparents said to our parents, but that was one of the things our parents changed about us. Because they allowed us to talk. They allowed us to sit at the table and have debate or speak. Right. And so see how we're allowed to speak. Right. Maybe that was a mistake. Especially on her part.
But No, but it's true. They allowed for that part to happen.
Exactly. But and then, like I said, every generations, and the baby boomers started it, and that hence how we started getting generational names.
Yes.
The baby boomers started affecting the most change. And then with that, every single generation after that has even affected more change.
Right.
Right. So, like I said, so 50 years ago, our generation, the world is not today what it was 50 years ago. And then I go to my parents, and I think 75 years ago,
it's not today.
Not even close.
So still, can't judge apples, oranges, bananas,
grapefruit. Like, it just keeps going.
Pears. It's like we cannot continue to judge. Maybe offer assistance. Try to be of assistance.
The one thing that I'm really passionate about is making children responsible for their actions.
Yes.
That's my thing.
There
all
are
need
always to make sure
consequences to our... No, you don't have to be mean about it. I'm just saying, though, we're living in a society right now that
consequences are very natural. For instance, I can remember moving here from Nova Scotia. And so we get here, and my son at the time is, I believe, 15. And he's like, I'm going to go to the school, and I'm just wearing my hoodie and my sneakers. And I'm like, Brent, you can't do that here. And he says, yes, you can. And he's going to, because he's not going to look like a nerd. Okay? I'm okay with that. That's fine. My son walks out the door, because this is Edmonton at the time. And in Edmonton, it looks sunny and beautiful, and you look like you could walk out in a pair of shorts.
And it's -45.
Yeah. And it hurts to breathe.
Yeah.
So he walks out the door to go to school. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to go get him. I'm going to have to do something silly, like drive behind him or something and throw them at him. And the next thing you know, the door opens and he comes back in and he's like, nah, I'm going to go and get my boots on that my uncle gave me, because they're Arctic boots.
Right.
And they were right up to his knees. And I'm going to wear my winter coat and his gloves and a toque. And off he goes. Covers his face, too, with a scarf. And off he goes to school. So that, in my opinion, is a natural consequence. If you're jumping off the bed and you split your head open like I did, that's a natural consequence to jumping on beds when you're 6 years old. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Hey, Lynn.
Or, don't touch it, that it's going to be hot. Natural consequences. You're reading?
Yes.
So, anyway.
No, I get it. I understand, Catherine. Like, I feel the same way. I'm very fortunate for the way we were raised.
Oh, absolutely. I'm having a meltdown here, so I just had to open the window, which explains.
I wonder why. Hot flash.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fun times. Fun times. Anyway, yeah. Very fortunate with how we were raised.
Right.
The difficult...
And like you said, with consequences, some are natural, and some... they're taught by others.
I just worry that, and maybe it's the mental health side of things, it's just, I worry so much today where I see the teenage suicide rate shoot up in 20 years, right? So significantly that you're looking at, well, why? How did that happen? And we live in an environment where no child shall be left behind, which I get. Yeah. Nobody wants to single anybody out. Right? And I get that. We grew up where if you were in a different reading group, you were singled out. Yep. And there was always the F class.
And do you want to hear something? I was really good at reading when I was younger. And so they put me in the top. And then one of the girls, because there was 3 of us, one of the girls didn't like it. So she wanted to go back down, and she did. And then another girl decided that she needed more help and went back down. And then I was there all by myself. And when I realized that I was in the top reading group and I was by myself, guess what I did? Because I was singled out. I decided to play stupid. I acted like I couldn't do that hard books like that. Meanwhile, I'm reading them at home.
But the thing is that that's what I mean. Everything's changed. I don't believe in segregation of any kind. I certainly don't. But
I don't believe you should be allowed to set people up for failure.
But that's what I feel is happening. Okay, I worked in an industry where I read a lot. And I used to get mostly people who were representing themselves. And what was coming out of high school, I was shocked. Like, virtually a lot of kids are graduating functionally illiterate. And they're graduating high school.
But I also think that's partially, and I know people don't want to hear this, but again, it's partially a parent's responsibility. I know this sucks. People hate hearing this. Because I think I would know if my son or daughter is struggling in a subject enough that and talking to teachers and stuff, that I'm working with my school.
Well, absolutely.
I'm my child's advocate.
Well, that's it. And there's a lot of programs and services out there to help with situations. And this really isn't the topic I was referring to. Right. What I was referring to is that if a child has never experienced problem solving, and I mean problem solving their own problems, right? If they haven't learned how to self-soothe, if they're not being taught how to pick themselves up after they fall down, dust themselves off and move forward, right? Help's always there if you need it. Yeah. Always, that's how we were raised. But we were also raised in a different world where we were forced to do that.
Right.
Right. And now we've taken, and I get it, it's for the protection of children. I don't want to see any child bullied. But if we're going to go there, here's a simple answer. Most kids at school get bullied for what they're wearing. Believe it or not. Am I not right? Have you guys not been to high school and you don't have the right sneakers, or you can't afford this, or your pants are too short?
Go with uniforms then?
That's my point. The UK does it. How can you make fun of kids if
they all have to... bullying in the UK though.
They do, but not about clothes. One thing at a time.
And that's what I mean though, Valerie.
But I'm just saying there are solutions. I'm just saying though, there used to be a time where, you went to school and like, hey, the strap, I was in, I don't know, grade 7 or 8 before they took the strap out of the school. But
I don't believe in corporal punishment.
No, neither do I. And I'm glad they took it out of the school. That's not what this is about.
No.
I was always more worried about what would happen if I
went home.
When I got home.
Yeah.
I was not worried about my teachers or principals. I was more...
What about you, Catherine?
Yeah. I don't know. I was just... That's right. It's just really hard. It's one of those situations. And I feel I can't comment on something that doesn't exist in a world that doesn't exist anymore.
I do think, like you said, there are things that are intergenerational. Structure, like they said, is one of them. Yes, I do think structure does help kids. And when my children ask me about that, when it comes to their children, I say, some of my favorite things are about structure because it's how I could deal with stuff myself.
But we're also living in a generation now where, about structure. But the reality is some parents, right, the only time they can see their children is between... 9:30 and 10:30 at night.
Yep.
And that's what a lot that I had never really taken into consideration. I had never taken into consideration how, people do shift work. They do all different kinds of work. And then when do you get your family time?
You don't. That's one of the things I'm saying is like we really, we used to have to struggle to make family time though. And we did it.
Yes.
Because we made an effort to do that.
Right. And I'm sure that, we did. We always had family time.
That's what I mean. That was because our parents put the effort in to do that. That was their parenting.
Right. No, I'm not trying to beat up on any generations.
No, and that's what we're saying, is that it's all intergenerational.
Right.
But the mode that we do it with is different. Like, the way we have to parent nowadays is different. They have to be more safe than ever before. Why? Because I don't know why, but there's a lot of creeps out there.
No, but it's because now they were connected to the community. Now your children are connected to the whole world.
Yeah.
Right? And so your little bubble from before doesn't exist anymore. And we can say, my obvious answer to all of this is shut it off, shut it off.
Didn't want to go to the principal's office, so Dad was always my principal at all of my schools.
That's true.
I remember that. And that's what I said to her. I said, because her dad was a principal. I can't even imagine having to tell my dad that, my dad wouldn't have been happy if I told him that I had gotten in trouble at school for being disrespectful or certain things, right?
Right, for sure. No, like
Neither
looking
my
for
mom.
Your parents to back you up.
No, parents didn't. That's the other thing. I think kids, and maybe our kids, and I don't know if this is being judgmental. Maybe you guys can help me. Is this being judgmental? I'm not really sure. Our kids have the time or make it a priority to have the time.
For what?
For certain things with their kids, like that family time. It's not as structured. It's not, Monday nights, family sit at the table night, and Tuesday we have football, and Wednesday we have this, and Thursday we have that, and Friday is this, and Saturday is that, and Sunday is church.
Some families don't even eat together.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Like, I'm not sure they have that. So yeah, in some ways,
and we were just raised totally different. And I found myself being really judgy, especially in parenting and the younger generation. And like I said, when I was talking about the internet, my solution was turn it off. But we live in a world where you can't. A lot of our children are learning online now. Yeah. I mean, that's their only form of education is online.
A lot of our kids know more about computers than we ever did. Or ever will.
Okay. Yeah.
It is true.
Absolutely. It is true. It's kind of funny because we struggle a lot, especially with this new platform for all of us. Yeah. Well, and for us in particular, now into video editing and,
all sorts of fun, wonderful things that we're learning.
But hey,
I love that part about it, though.
Yeah. Like, we went on Facebook last week, and nobody was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of
scary. I think
we
stayed for like 5 minutes, and we were like, boom.
Uh-oh. We're gone. I was like, what do we do now? And then we remembered. We had said we weren't going to be on Facebook that week.
Right.
And then I was
so
like,
then we
why
decided,
are we sitting here?
We decided to do TikTok and Facebook at the same time, and I had TikTok running, and it shut down. So yeah.
So
you're lucky you get our attention.
Oh, you guys couldn't even get on YouTube tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. I had another comment, or somebody sent me something about how the picture quality was really bad.
Yeah.
And we may, I got a new phone coming.
Yeah. We've got some
I've got some
new stuff coming.
So we're hoping that our videos are going to be a lot better from now on. Yeah. Anyways, Grammy's Corner. So excited.
Yep. And the Grammys and the grandchildren can come and visit us on this corner.
Yes, and the grandchildren and children can come visit us
anybody,
on
really.
Grammys Corner. We're going to have our first Grammys Corner video out this weekend, and we're featuring snowflakes. So if you...
Well, that's our thing. Snowflakes.
Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing on Grammy's Corner. So it kind of came to us because we haven't had the opportunity to see our grandchildren. We're on complete lockdown here. Yeah. So
Yeah, I heard YouTube was terrible.
Terrible, yeah. Anyways, we're on complete lockdown here. We haven't been able to see our lovely grandchildren. With the exception of the one that's living with me right now.
Yay.
And so, yes, and the good news is...
We decided we wanted to do stuff with them, but we also, you know, we're Grammys, so let's get together.
Right.
On putting it together. So
the reason why we're together after a total bath in hand sanitizer and everything else is because one, we can't figure out how to split screen yet.
Yeah, we haven't figured it out.
We tried. So guess what? I'm going to YouTube it.
Yeah.
Because that's the new thing.
YouTube everything. And there's something else. Generational parenting. Abundance of knowledge everywhere.
YouTube it.
Kids don't even need to go to a library. I mean, they do, because there is something to be said for the library.
I still love, like, look, hey, I have Audible, all those things. Yeah. And, however, there is nothing like turning the page of a book.
Right.
I just love that. I don't know. I still buy books.
And maybe someday they will disappear. And what I have, this collection all over my wall behind you.
Oh my God, she's got might the encyclopedias here from...
It might be worth something, who knows?
The 1950s, I'm not sure. Yeah, you have I know I saw them here somewhere.
Right down there.
Oh, Better Homes, new cookbook.
Yeah.
She got two, same one. No, it's just one of those...
Different years versions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, just one of those things. So really excited about Grammy's Corner. It's our way to still manage to do things with the kids, even though we can't be there. And we're hoping that they will join in with us and they can do it on video, whatever, make their own. And we're new adventures, maybe some walkabouts, learning, and
maybe some snow thing building.
Oh, yeah. Was it you talking about the igloos?
Yeah, and different things like that.
Oh, yeah, that's what I want to do. Go build an igloo. Yay. That just helps the whole Canada thing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to move my elf coming out of his...
I think it's a mirror image, which they're going to see it backwards anyways. But maybe
way.
not.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, that definitely helps our Canadian image up here, you know, where we live in igloos and we plug our cell phones right into the igloo wall. But
I might just use a hail bay and make it look like it.
Anyways, but we wanted to have some fun with Grant, and we're both Grammys.
And we're both missing our grandkids.
Yeah.
And so we thought maybe we could think of something to do with them.
Right, so we're going to put one
here.
Yeah, here. Yeah. And we're going to put one out about once a week.
Are we going to give parents a recipe that they can do while we're at it? Like the recipe for that hardening dough?
Yeah, for sure. Like but we'll do it all ahead of time.
Yeah. 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 We'll give you everything ahead of time if you need anything. So right now for the show, you're going to need what? Paper and...
I put it right on our website,
todayslitches.com.
If you go down the, it'll say Grammy's Corner, and if you go to the snowflake, it'll tell you what you're going to need if you guys, so I really don't anticipate that any of them are going to be making snowflakes.
Well, you never know. I might just bring old great-grandma here over.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
And she could make some with us. And then it would be Grammy Corner.
Yeah, Grammy Corner. So yeah, we just thought it would be something fun to do with the kids. Can't wait. Hoping that, well, our weather's been fairly decent. We got snow. But hey, it's supposed to go up to +7 tomorrow. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. You never know. You may just get a video of us making some snow angels. Yeah. On Grammy's Corner. Yeah. Anyway, but... I can't think. Is there anything else? We've kind of gone through everything.
I think so. I think we're good. What about you guys? Are you guys good?
Yeah.
I hope everybody gets a chance to talk on here as well between each other and that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we love yous all and miss yous, and yeah, it's kind of nice seeing you.
I haven't had an opportunity to see. You're the only one that I've been in contact with. Besides the people in my home.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so again, you know, this is my sister Valerie and I'm
Sheila. And today's Litches. Thank you for joining in with us. We'll see you again.
What about Papas? We forget about Papas.
Oh.
Grandma's Papas, you can join in too. Papas are more than welcome.
Yeah, Papas are welcome.
Nice to see you too.
Parents are welcome. Children are welcome. And yeah, Grammy's Corner. We're hoping that we will encourage a bunch of kids to join in and do some fun stuff with us.
Yeah.
And
so call your grandkids, tell them that we're on.
Yeah, we'll let you know. We'll send out a video.
Maybe you can show each other what you're doing or whatever and FaceTime each other as well.
Yep, we're going to put that up this weekend. We should have one every weekend after that.
Yep, especially during Christmas because, there's lots of fun things to do during Christmas, isn't there? Love you.
Love you. All right, guys, have a good night, and we hope we gave you something to chew on.
Yeah, make sure to savor every single bite.